live and archived games. Read about the teams and players. Relive the big moments. Every season, the Trib Live High School Sports Network is your home for high school sports. The best seat in the house is on Trib HSSN.
Well, I kind of feel a little silly. I kind of feel a little silly most of the time, but welcome in the Week 2 edition of the WPIAL Scoreboard Show here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network. And our little pregame hit that I did this afternoon, looking at my weather app on my phone, mistake number one, everything looked glorious, looked like a glorious night. Then I see about 35, 40 minutes ago, games going into lightning delays, especially south of the city of Pittsburgh. And I was like, what in the heck is going on here? And so we're going to run down the final scores. We already got some recaps lined up. I will just say this, that these are all non-conference games, so it's easier to pull the plug early. A lot of these scores I'm going to give did not go the full 4 quarters, but if it was a one-sided affair, they go into a lightning delay, both coaches get together and say, hey, it is what it is. Let's wrap it up early instead of having everybody wait at least the mandatory 30 minutes. So that's the case, but there's still final scores because fortunately, most of the games were, if not into the fourth quarter, well, most of them I think were into the fourth quarter before weather became a factor in some of these contests. All right. Again, all non-conference final scores. How about Hempfield? Spartans now 3-0 on the season, win big at home over Kiscaria, 43-10. Norwin over Latrobe, 35-0. The Knights are 2-1. So 2 teams that have struggled recently, Hempfield, Norwin out of Westmoreland County, and now a combined 5-1 on the season. Peters Township remains undefeated. This is one of those games I was talking about, ended early in the fourth quarter. Peters Township total control as they shut out Mount Lebanon 35-0. 5A non-conference, Battle of the Panthers goes to Upper St. Clair. They remain undefeated. They roll past Franklin Regional 49-6. A 5A versus 4A non-conference matchup, West Mifflin crushes Baldwin 41-0. 4A versus 3A non-conference, West Allegheny 65, McGuffey 7. Indians a little upset, I'd say, after a tough loss last week to Chartiers Valley in their season opener. Newcastle 32, Highlands 0. That was a battle of 1-1 teams. South Allegheny now 3-0. Gladiators 53, Carlinton 0. Seton LaSalle wins over Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 39-7. Washington bounces back after losing last week to Steel Valley. They win at Union 42-7. Bishop Canevin, impressive victory. They knock off Trib HSSN's number 1 team in 2A, Steel Valley in Munhall, 21-6. The final score in that one. Jeanette 31, Ligonier Valley 0. Greensburg Central Catholic 35, Apollo Ridge 16. Bentworth 45-0 over Charleroi. Brentwood 41-0 over Stowe Rocks. Neshannock edges Elwood City 26-20. Shenango stuns Mohawk 24-0. We'll get a recap of that coming up in a moment. Laurel 43-0 over Riverside. Fort Cherry 55, West Green 8. Fraser 31, Carmichael's 14, ending the Mighty Mikes' longest WPL current streak coming into this week at 4 in a row. Leechburg 26-0 over Sarah Catholic. Avella 35, Springdale 6. The Eagles are now 3-0, and University Prep knocks off Carrick. First win of the year for the Wildcats, 56-12 is the final score. All right, let's get our first recap. A little bit of a surprise tonight. They're sort of a homecoming for Rod Steele, the new coach at Bishop Canevin. Once manned the sidelines at Steel Valley, and a triumphant return for Coach Steele. Bishop Canevin 21, Steel Valley 6. Paul Patera had the call on the network and is kind enough to join us for the recap. Paul?
Thank you very much, Don. Rod Steele had a lot of success here as the Steel Valley coach, especially that dynamite 2016 team that mercy ruled the entire opposition. But tonight was a good story for Rod Steele, different story for Steel Valley. Steel Valley just could never get going. It was kind of a sloppy game, a lot of penalty flags tonight. But Bishop Canavan's got an explosive team. Brady Wagner allowed to play. The judge rules that he's allowed to play, and the young man threw 2 touchdown passes. The only score we had in the first half was a 17-yard touchdown pass he threw to DeMar Olds late in the first quarter. DeMar Olds. And then in the second quarter, Mayante Mott had a great night running the football, and he probably had 120 yards rushing called back because of penalties, but he did end up with 148 yards, including a 65-yard touchdown run that was dazzling 18 seconds into the second half. He also caught a 13-yard touchdown pass on a screen. That gave them a 21-0. Steel Valley getting on the board with 11:57 left on a 2-yard touchdown run by Deron Barksdale. Barksdale, 105 yards rushing on 18 carries. Brady Wagner threw for 88 yards for Bishop Canavan. Now, Steel Valley jumps into Allegheny Conference play next week with their 1-2 record. The Ironmen take on the defending WPIAL champion South Park Eagles. Still non-conference play for Canavan. The Crusaders will be taking on Laurel out at Dormont Stadium. But a lot of penalties in this one tonight. And what really sewed it up, I don't want to forget about this. Now, you remember the Philadelphia Eagles drive against the Pittsburgh Steelers last year where they took the last 10.5 minutes off the clock. Canavan ran a drive that took almost the entire last 10 minutes off the clock, finally turning the ball over on downs with like 48 seconds left in the game, and that put the game away. It was Mayante Mott and the freshman, number 21, Nuval Bone III, that just ran behind the big offensive line for Canavan. Leading the way was Charles Butler, 6'6", 330 pounds, who's already got some Division I football offers, Akron, Kent State, Sacramento State among them. And they were able to put the game on ice with that last drive and capture the 21-6 victory. Yeah, I was pretty surprised by it as well to see Canavan come in here and defeat Steel Valley, as you said, the number 1 ranked team in the Tribs rankings this week, 21-6. A nice win, and this Bishop Canavan team is going to be heard from in Class 1A football this year.
Yeah, good bounce back. They got stung a little bit last Saturday against Seton LaSalle. Very nice win over Steel Valley, 21-6. Doesn't get any easier for the Ironmen either. They welcome the defending 2A champions, the South Park Eagles, to Munhall Campbell Field next week. Paul Patera, thank you very much.
Thanks, Don. I'm getting attacked by bugs. I guess I should just...
All right, get out of there.
Have a good one. Take care.
Yeah, Paul was talking about the weather. He said that as soon as the game went final, bam, lightning in Munhall, and that's... and we get it every year almost. Rarely do we have a season where in that first, usually 2-3 weeks, storms, lightning are a concern. And it's surprisingly, because I did not see a forecast where they were calling for storms. I know tomorrow's supposed to be on the wet side, but nonetheless, a surprise. Bishop Canavan 21-6 over Steel Valley. Maybe a shocker is how you can label this one. James Dotson was in Bessemer. The boys of Bessemer fall at home to Shenango, 24-0. First win for the Cats. And now the Warriors, after that great start, are 1-2.
Yeah, Don, no lightning up here in Lawrence County, but lightning did strike in terms of a freshman quarterback. Kind of a surprise. Caleb McConnell steps in for the Shenango Wildcats behind center, and he went off, to say the very least. He finishes 186 yards in the air, 88 yards on the ground, 3 total touchdowns in the 24-0 victory for the Cats. Coach Jimmy Graham of Shenango, told us they needed a spark in their offense. Don, they had 143 yards of total offense in the first 2 games combined. They had more than that on the first 2 drives of tonight's contest. Right off the bat, they drive down the field, a 12-play drive, really methodical. They end up having a fumble inside the red zone, but they force a 3-and-out, get the ball right back, and go on another long drive, a 9-play scoring drive, capped off by McConnell's first touchdown run from 7 yards out. Oh, by the way, Caleb McConnell, the freshman, also kicks the extra points, making it 7-0 in the game. They would then force another 3-and-out on the game. McConnell would make one of his few mistakes, an interception, but they would get the ball right back and go down the field quickly this time over the top. A 51-yard touchdown pass from McConnell to Landon Albertini, a dime down the far sideline, dropping it in the bucket, made it 14-0. That was your score at the halftime break. Mohawk got the ball to start the second half, Don, got a couple of first downs, got more first downs on that drive than they had in the entire first half, but then they ended up getting an interception thrown. Again, Shenango works their way down the field. Winless the first 2 weeks. Their line looked like a completely different offensive line. They get in the field goal range. Caleb McConnell does it again, this time with the 24-yard field goal, made it 17-0. He would then tack on a 47-yard keeper in the early stages of the fourth quarter to make it 24-0, and that was your final score. Overall, Shenango outgaining Mohawk 342 yards to 183 unofficially. And McConnell, again, 190 in the air, 86 on the ground, 3 total touchdowns. And this Mohawk team, unfortunately, since the injury midway through the game last week to their running back, Cass Stratton, has not looked the same offensively. Can't really get any consistency going. And it's unfortunate we have learned that Cass Stratton's injury is an ACL injury. Shenango, their running back from a week ago, also, though, Nick Lyons, also with a leg injury. They are able to move some pieces around and find lightning in a bottle in Caleb McConnell. It's been unleashed, to say the very least, here tonight. And shock and awe is what we saw from the Cats, their first win tonight, and great momentum going into the Northgate opener at home next week for the Big Seven. Mohawk, they got to find some way to get something clicking offensively. They host Elwood City, who lost in a nail-biter today against Neshannock as they open MAC action. Really, Don, the only positive news in the end that you can give for the Mohawk Warriors, it was an early homecoming. So we give a shout out to the homecoming queen, Danny Monaco, and get that bell out for homecoming queen for the class of 2026, Miss Tess Green, the Mohawk homecoming queen.
I hope that came over okay. Class of 2026 doesn't sound right that we're talking about seniors, class of 2026, but somehow we stay young and everyone else gets old. James, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sir Rebel.
Yeah, surprise. Shenango over Mohawk. So our first 2 recaps. Somewhat surprising. I want to give this score. We're going to get a scoring update. We got some more recaps here in a moment. This final score, defense be damned. North Catholic 65, Blackhawk 49. 114 points combined at J.C. Stone Field tonight in North Park. North Catholic beats Blackhawk 65-49. The Trojans, look out for them. They are now 3-0. All right, let's welcome in Jason Kern. Jason had the call on the network. Freeport and Quaker Valley, battle of 2-0 teams. We only had, I think, 3 matchups throughout the WPIAL of 2-0 versus 2-0. This was one of them. Great start for Freeport as they return the opening kickoff for a score. Jason has the recap. Mr. Kern, how are you?
Good, Don. And unlike what Paul had at Munhall, it wasn't lightning in the air. It was lightning in Freeport senior Amos Glenn. He took the opening kickoff and he went 85 yards untouched. And the extra point gave Freeport a 7-0 lead, and they never looked back, Don. That was 11 seconds in, and then 10 minutes later, their triple threat quarterback, Drew Ross, I say triple because he runs, he passes, he plays defense, he does everything. He had a 7-yard touchdown run, made it 14-0. Freeport would strike early in the second quarter, just a minute 52 in. It was that guy again, Amos Glenn, this time a 6-yard run, and then the extra point made it 21-0. Quaker Valley did a little inside reverse to their running back, Benjamin McHenry, with just 1:39 left in the half. He raced 58 yards for a touchdown, and Quaker Valley thought they would only be down 21-7 going into the half, but Freeport would score with just 7 seconds left in the second quarter. when their receiver, Bryson Piga, received a touchdown pass from Drew Ross, their quarterback, of 8 yards, and that made it 28-7 at the half. In the third quarter, Amos Glenn scored to make it 35-7 with a 7-yard run, Dawn, and then he capped the scoring with a 1-yard run with 9 minutes and 30 seconds left in regulation to give the Mercy Roll 42-7. I will say that he was over, he being Amos Glenn, on 200 all-purpose yards. He had an 85-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He had a 73-yard punt return for a touchdown, negated by a block in the back. He had a 94-yard punt return where he got tackled after a 58-yard punt, but he got tackled at the 1-yard line. But then he fumbled 2 plays later into the end zone, and Quaker Valley recovered. But all said, he had over 200 all-purpose yards. Freeport moves to 3-0, Quaker Valley to 2-1. Conference play begins for both of them next week. For Freeport, the Allegheny 7, they start with Deer Lakes next week at Freeport. For Quaker Valley, the tough West Hills Conference, they take on that North Catholic team that you just talked about, who scored 65 points tonight. It's not getting any easier for their Quakers. They will host North Catholic next week.
Well done, Jason. Have a good
already,
weekend.
Dawn.
All right. Have a good weekend, Jason. Thank you, sir.
You too.
Battle of 2-0 teams goes to Freeport. Yellow Jackets, as Jason mentioned, win, eventually going to Mercy Roll over Quaker Valley 42-7. Another battle of 2-0 teams, unlikely, but nonetheless. Southmoreland goes to 3-0. The Skies looking good, 54-7. They win at home over Laurel Highlands. Let's get the score update here, and we got a couple more recaps waiting by, but some folks just joining us wondering about some results. So let's run those down for you real quick. All non-conference. Hempfield now 3-0. They beat Kiski area 43-10. Pine Richland defeats Seneca Valley 49-20. Norwin 35-0 over Latrobe. The Knights now 2-1. Peters Township 3-0. They win at home over Mount Lebanon 35-0. Upper St. Clair 3-0. The Panthers win the Battle of the Panthers 49-6 over Franklin Regional. We'll recap that coming up shortly. Plum 23, Gateway 14. The Gators remain winless now, 0-3. Hampton 25, Shaler 24. Another tough loss at home, 3 straight for the Shaler Titans. West Mifflin blanks Baldwin 41-0. Recap of that in a moment. Thomas Jefferson trailing for most of this game, 7-3 to McKeesport going into the fourth quarter. They rally, they score with under a minute remaining, then get a pick 6 with 7 seconds left. Thomas Jefferson 16, McKeesport 7. Bad news, Keelan Spell injured again in that game for the McKeesport Tigers. Just not the same team. He is such a dominant player. We hope it is nothing serious. But DJ remains undefeated, 16-7 over McKeesport. Montour bounces back. They lost to Moon a week ago. They win at home over Trinity, 35-27. Avonworth goes to 3-0. They win at Aliquippa. That doesn't happen that often. Antelopes 23, the Quip 7. West Allegheny 65-7 over McGuffey. Hopewell 49, Ambridge 2. The Vikings now 3-0. Southmoreland, as I mentioned, 3-0, 54-7. They defeat Laurel Highlands. North Catholic 65, Blackhawk 49. Defense in that one optional. Newcastle shuts out Highlands 32-0. Derry 24, Deer Lakes 21. Imani Christian Big at Beaver 41-3. Freeport 42-7 over Quaker Valley. Elizabeth Forward 3-0. Warriors win big at home over East Allegheny 53-13. Greensburg Salem 26, Valley 10. South Allegheny 53-0 over Carleton. Seton LaSalle 39, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 7. The Rebels have now won 2 straight. Washington 42 and Union 7. Bounce back win for the Little Prexies. Bishop Canevin hands Steel Valley their second loss of the season. 21-6. Crusaders win in Munhall over the Ironmen. Jeanette 31, Ligonier Valley nothing. Greensburg Central Catholic 35, Apollo Ridge 16. Bentworth blank Charleroi 45 nothing. Brentwood 41, Stowe Rocks nothing. Neshannock 26-20 over Elwood City. Shenango 24 and Mohawk nothing. A surprise as the Wildcats get their first win on the road. Laurel now 3-0. The Spartans over Riverside 43 nothing. Western Beaver 3-0. Golden Beavers win at Rochester 41-6. The Rams fall to 0-3. Fort Cherry 3-0. The Rangers win over West Green big 55-8. Fraser 31, Carmichael's 14, Leechburg 26-0 over Sarah Catholic, and Avella of 3-0. The Eagles 35, Springdale 6. University Prep defeats Carrick 56-12. All right, home opener for the Baldwin Highlanders, but unfortunately for them, the beat goes on, as does the lengthy losing streak. Baldwin loses big at home to West Mifflin. Kevin Zomansky had the call in that game, and he joins us now to recap. Oh, Kevin.
Hey, Don. Yes, it was more of the same for the Baldwin Highlanders tonight. Desperate times, Don. Called for desperate measures on the first play on offense. They had a halfback option pass. The intended receiver was open, but it was underthrown, intercepted, and 2 plays on offense. It was Armand Hill into the end zone from 22 yards out at the 128 mark, and the Titans were on their way. Baldwin unable to really get anything going offensively. They picked up a first down punt, started to get it going a little bit in the second half, not even talking counting points down, counting first downs. They ended up with 6, but it was all Hill and all Titans. He scored from, as I mentioned, first 22 yards out, 27 yards out. At the end of the first quarter, it was 14-0 Titans. They threw one into the corner of the end zone early in the second. It was Josie Perez, the Teron White pass, 20 yards out. That made it 21-0. Then Hill ran one in from 5, and then 29. That made it 35.
Kevin freezing up on us. It's kind of like the Baldwin offense, just freezing up. Not ready for prime time. The Highlanders lose 41-0. I'll stall for just a split second. I don't know that we need to hear any more, but West Mifflin impressive in their victory. See if Kevin jumps back on. If not, we will continue on. Now's a good time, why not, to pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Trib Live High School Sports Network. That was 20 seconds, so that was a good pause. All right, Kevin's back on. Let's bring Kevin in here.
Sorry, Don. Don't know
Go
what
ahead.
happened there with the internet connection.
No apology. Go ahead. Continue.
Not sure where you heard me leave off, but it was 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. 2 Armand Hill touchdowns, 22 yards, 27 yards. And then it was a Josie Perez, the Teron White 20-yard TD pass early about midway through the second quarter. And then Hill ran one in from 5 yards out, 29 yards out, 35-0. Baldwin tried to get something going very late in this first half, second quarter, trying to throw a middle screen that had worked earlier. It was picked off by Devin Brown on the 7-yard line. He ran it in for a touchdown. Extra point was no good. 41-0 at the half. Just when it looked like Baldwin might get a chance to punch one in, they caused a turnover on the second team offense for the Titans. They recovered the ball inside the red zone, but that's when the lightning was detected. The officials slowed the game. There was a long discussion. Even with the running clock, they could have maybe ran half the quarter while they were discussing it, but they decided to call the game as the players lined up and shook hands. It was 41-0. The Titans pulled that one out. Baldwin looks ahead to hosting Chartiers Valley, and West Mifflin will host Bethel Park. If the Highlanders are going to get off the schneid at any point this season, Dawn, and the games get increasingly more difficult as they go week to week, they're going to have to clean up a lot of pre-snap penalties. They had 5 illegal substitution penalties for being in the huddle, 12 men in the huddle, and countless pre-snap. So a lot of things to work on for the Highlanders if they're going to pull one off. But again, looking at the schedule, it's going to be really difficult for them moving forward.
Yeah, but they got Char Valley, non-conference.
Then they had Elizabeth Forward.
Ugh.
And then they host South Fayette.
Yeah.
Out at Bethel, at Moon, and then Peters and Upper St. Clair to wrap up the season.
Mm.
Don, their sideline looks like a 3A team. There's very few players on the sideline. And I think that's, if they're going to make this work in the future, that's one of the things they're going to have to improve and increase.
Somehow, some way, got to get the athletes out. Get the athletes out. Kevin, thank you.
All right, Don, have a good night.
All right, you too. Kevin Zomansky. Another rough night for Baldwin. What is that? 22 losses in a row. All right, let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Bob Orquist. Robert was had the call on the network of the Battle of the Panthers, and no surprise. We talked earlier this evening about a couple of surprises here in week 2. That no surprise in Murraysville tonight, a young, banged-up Panthers team from Franklin Regional. No contest for what is now looking to be one of the better teams in all of 5A, Robert.
Yeah, really good stuff for Upper St. Clair, Don. 7 for 7 touchdowns in their first 7 possessions. 15 seconds into the game, they had a 7-0 lead after the opening kickoff was a touchback. Ethan Hellman found Nico DeRazio for an 80-yard touchdown, and they were off and running. It was 14-0, and Franklin Regional had their best drive. They had a 13-play drive. They stalled at the Upper St. Clair 25, and it was all Upper St. Clair. Ethan Hellman, the leading passer in the WPIAL, will remain that. He throws for 308 yards and 5 touchdowns. Threw the touchdown to DeRazio, a 38-yard touchdown run by Dante Curry. Bryce Jones, a 59-yard reception. John Banbury, 26-yard reception. A 40-yard catch by John Snyder, 27-yard catch by Anthony Razzo. 42-0 at halftime. And then Josh Schneider in the second-team offense did the trick for the 7-yard run to make it.
Well, it seems like the stadiums weren't the only ones having problems. Bobby O will jump back on. We'll give him a minute here as he recaps Upper St. Clair and Franklin Regional. Final just in. No surprise here either. North Allegheny defeats Penn Hills 35-0. 2 programs going in opposite directions. Tigers are now 3-0. Indians fall to 0-3. Robert, continue. Bob Orquist, part 2.
See what happens when you stack the Polish guys? Bad things happen.
Right. That's right.
I'll just make it quick. You just want to stay.
That's the Polish guy that said that, everybody. That's the Polish guy that said that.
That's correct. The Polish guy did say that.
That's right.
7 touchdowns in their first 7 drives. They were up 7-0, 15 seconds in. The Upper St. Clair Panthers were. Ethan Hellman, who is the leading passer in the WPIAL, Don, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 different receivers. Nico DeRazio, Bryce Jones, John Banbury, John Snyder, Anthony Razzo, Josh Schneider. The second-team offense got a touchdown. You mentioned it. Franklin Regional, not only they hurt, but they're still missing some players from the suspensions. So they were very undermanned. They'll get some of those players back as they move in the conference play. But Chet Taylor, third game, 4 touchdowns now in the season. He ran for 118 yards and their only touchdown to make it 49-6. So it's 3-0 for Upper St. Clair. And they were just fantastic. They played a perfect first half. You know, coaches will pick nits. No penalties, no turnovers. Their first half was pretty much perfect in this one. So they're 3-0. Franklin Regional 0-3. And again, they'll get healthier and better. They're young as well. They're at Latrobe, so they'll start Big East Conference play next week. Still 2 more non-conference games for Upper St. Clair in the A6. They've got Hampton and then McKeesport. Circle that opener against Peters Township. They may not, but I already have.
Yeah, it's the big one. I mean, that's conference loaded. 5 undefeated teams in 5A coming into tonight. 4 of them from the Allegheny 6. 5 of the 6 teams made the playoffs last season. And no offense to South Fayette, no offense to Moon, and no offense to Bethel Park, but Peters Township Upper St. Clair is the game in week 5.
Peters number 1 in the state, according to Trib HSSN.
Very interesting. I will say this before we let you go, and the great news is that Bobby O will be joining us on the round table. You mentioned Ethan Hellman will remain number 1. I caution because the number 2 guy, Joey Felitsky, don't have any stats on him yet, but he led his team to 65 points. Yes. So I'm kind of
great point. I saw Joey Felitsky in week 0, so I've seen either way. I'm going to see the top 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 weeks after 3 weeks.
We'll see in about 25, my friend.
I'll be there.
Bob Orquist, he'll be joining us later. Recaps this one, an Upper St. Clair victory over Franklin Regional. All right, let me run down the scores. We got some new ones that just came in. Again, for those of you wondering, some of the games south of Pittsburgh affected by weather, lightning delays in the fourth quarter. So some of them are just wrapping up or possibly still in a delay. But this is what we have so far. All non-conference. North Allegheny 35-0 over Penn Hills. Hempfield 43, Kiski area 10. Pine Richland 49-20 over Seneca Valley. Norwin 35-0 over Latrobe. Peters Township 35-0 over Mount Lebanon. Upper St. Clair 49-6 defeats Franklin Regional. Plum 23, Gateway 14. Hampton 25, Shaler 24. Fox Chapel edges Knock 20-18. It's been a while, but the Foxes are now 2-1. West Mifflin 41-0 over Baldwin. Thomas Jefferson 16, McKeesport 7, with 13 of the 16 points coming in the final minute of the game. Montour 35, Trinity 27, Avonworth 23, Aliquippa 7, West Allegheny 65-7 over McGuffey, Hopewell 49-2 over Ambridge, Southmoreland 54, Laurel Highlands 7, North Catholic 65, Blackhawk 49. You score 49 and still lose by 2 touchdowns. Newcastle 32-0 over Highlands. It was Derry 24, Deer Lakes 21. Nice win on the road for the Trojans. Imani Christian wins big on the road, 41-3 at Beaver. Burrow 28, Mount Pleasant 21. Freeport 42, Quaker Valley 7. Elizabeth Forward 53, East Allegheny 13. Greensburg Salem 26, Valley 10. South Allegheny blanks Carlinton 53-0. Seton LaSalle 39, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 7. Washington 42-7 over Union. Bishop Canevin 21, Steel Valley 6. Greensburg Central Catholic 35, Apollo Ridge 16. Jeanette 31-0 over Ligonier Valley. 41-0 Brentwood defeats Stowe Rocks. 24-0 Shenango stuns Mohawk. Neshannock 26, Elwood City 20. Laurel 43-0 over Riverside. Western Beaver 41, Rochester 6. 55-8 Fort Cherry defeats West Green. Fraser 31, Carmichael's 14. Leechburg 26-0 over Sarah Catholic. Avella 35, Springdale 6. University Prep over Carrick 56-12. City League play began this weekend. If you missed it last night, Westinghouse, 3-time defending champs, rolled past Brashear 50-6. And this evening at Couple Stadium, it was Alderdice 45 and Perry 6. More scores and recaps when we return. It's the WPIAL Scoreboard Show, Week 2 edition on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
This is Miles. He needs PT. Jess needs training. And Max needs both. And while they're all athletic, at AHN Sports Medicine, we know they each need a little something different to hit their goals. Our doctors and specialists pinpoint that difference and make a personalized plan to improve Miles's backswing and Max's throwing arm and Jess's form. Because at AHN Sports Medicine, we see you.
The Rebel Yell podcast with Don Rebel happens 4 times a week. Visit with some of the WPIAL's best players in the Player of the Week podcast. Some of the district's top coaches are featured in the Team of the Week podcast. A weekly preview podcast looks at some of the best matchups in the WPIAL. And finally, a Friday night recap podcast with scores and statistical highlights. Find the Rebel Yell podcast on hssn.triblive.com.
And now on Spotify.
Do you need custom printed materials for your school or organization? Hosting a fundraiser or special event? PrintSource can help. Visit printpittsburgh.com for a free quote on yard signs or banners, flyers and stickers, invitations, program books and tickets, even yearbooks. We are your single source solution for printed materials, signage, and so much more. Visit us online at printpittsburgh.com. PrintSource. Design, print, deliver.
Hi, I'm Adam Goodnack, and I'm a student in Seton Hill University's Wukich School of Nursing. I did my clinical rounds throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and it strengthened my belief in the path that I chose. I could really feel that I was making an impact. The faculty in my coursework at Seton Hill has prepared me to dive right into my field. I've received personalized support and expert guidance. I'm moving forward as a nurse of tomorrow at Seton Hill University.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
All right, welcome back. World headquarters of the Trib Live High School Sports Network. Don Rebel with you. Week 2 scoreboard shows some weather issues throughout the district, especially south of the city of Pittsburgh. Doesn't look like there were any weather issues in beautiful Wexford, Pennsylvania. Randy Gore is kind enough to join us now. He had the call on the network of North Allegheny's third victory in 3 games as they cruise to a win over a struggling Penn Hills team. Randall?
Thank you, Don. Back-to-back shutouts for the North Allegheny defense tonight as North Allegheny was cashing checks and taking names. North Allegheny got off to the great start. Opening drive this evening, a 9-play, 54-yard drive. Brady Brinkley 2-yard touchdown run for a 7-0 lead after a 3-and-out by Penn Hills. It was Brinkley again, this time through the air, with a 23-yard touchdown pass to Luke Rohan on a screen. And North Allegheny, with 6:03 to go in the first quarter, led it 14-0. The Penn Hills defense, to its credit, hung tough, kept North Allegheny at just 14 points for quite a while, but ultimately a turnover forced by the NA defense would change the trajectory of things for the rest of the way. As a fumble recovery by Caden Petro at the Penn Hills 29-yard line late in the second quarter, and then North Allegheny's Luke Rohan 3 plays later, a 20-yard touchdown run, and it was 21-0 NA at the half. Third quarter, Cam Kushner, 4-yard touchdown catch from Brady Brinkley, expanded the NA lead to 28-0 on a lengthy 6-minute drive for the Tigers. That culminated with just 3:32 left in the third, and then the mercy rule invoked on a Kellen Frank 26-yard touchdown run with 11:18 to go in the football game, and the Tigers rolled from there for the 35-0 victory. Offensively, Luke Rohan, another big night, over 100 yards, 122 on the ground, 1 touchdown, and another touchdown catch for Rohan as well. The NA defense, after last week giving up only 55 yards to Gateway, tonight they allow only 117 total yards, and of course the majority of that coming in garbage time for Penn Hills. So North Allegheny now 3-0 on the season, and they'll play the conference opener at home next week against Hempfield in Class 6A. And Penn Hills, meanwhile, 0-3 overall, and they will play their section opener at home next week against Fox Chapel, Mr. Don Rebel.
Did you win the Pebble Beach Open? Is that what that giant check is
like
all
Happy
about?
Gilmore. I'm like Happy Gilmore. I'm going to take this to my car here and hope that I can cash it at the bank tomorrow morning.
Throw it in the back seat. That's good.
The check is not for The check's not for too much money, though, because I still got to clean up the stadium here once we're done.
That's right. And all of that money, again, is going to save Nana's house. So good job by you, Randy Gore. Thanks. Have a good weekend, pal.
You too. Thanks, Don.
All right. That's good. Hey, I encourage bringing props to the show. That's good stuff by Randy Gore. All right. Let's give you the final scores that we have. And again, we're still some scores out there. Games that are literally just ending as we speak. But again, WPIAL non-conference. Not everybody will begin conference play next week, but most of the conferences in all 6 classifications will kick off conference play next week. And if you're new to all this and you're wondering, okay, what's the difference, conference, non-conference? It's the conference games that will determine who reaches the WPIAL playoffs. These are all 6A versus 5A non-conference final scores. North Allegheny 35, Penn Hills nothing. Joining the Tigers at 3-0, the Hempfield Spartans, 43-10. They win at home over Kiski area. Pine Richland 49, Seneca Valley 20, Norwin 35-0 over Latrobe. The Knights improving to 2-1. Also undefeated in 5A, Peters Township. They blanked Mount Lebanon 35-0. Big one tomorrow in Canton, a 3:30 kickoff at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. The 1-1 Central Catholic Vikings against the 1-1 Woodland Hills Wolverines. 5A non-conference, Battle of Unbeatens goes to Penn Trafford in a dandy. The Warriors defeat the Moon Tigers 25-24, handing Moon their first loss of the season. PT is now 3-0 on the campaign. And what do they have coming up? I marked that down. No, I didn't. So other 5A non-conference finals, Plum 23, Gateway 14, Gators now 0-3. Battle of the Panthers, Upper St. Clair 49, Franklin Regional 6. 5A versus 4A non-conference. Shaler's all 0-3. They've lost all 3 at home, but all 3 have been one-score games. Hampton 25, Shaler 24. Mars edges North Hills 13-10 as Eric Kasparovich comes home. He actually teaches at North Hills. The former North Hills Indian champion quarterback leads Mars past North Hills 13-10. The Fighting Planets remain undefeated at 3-0. Fox Chapel 2-1. Fox's win at Knock 20-18. Thomas Jefferson, they score 13 of their 16 points in the final minute of the game. They win at McKeesport 16-7. Big news here is that Keemon Spell, the talented junior from McKeesport, who did not play last week in the Tigers loss to Peters Township, injured in this game, and we hope that it's not a serious injury. The Tigers are hoping so. To TJ, now 3-0. West Mifflin 41, Baldwin nothing, and Montour defeats Trinity 35-7. Bob Orquist informs me Penn Trafford next week is at Woodland Hills. I did have that written down. How did I miss that? Man, all right. Continuing on, 4A versus 3A non-conference, impressive win. Anytime you go to the former pit, now Heinz Field, and beat Aliquippa, that is a big-time feather in your cap. The defending 3A champions off and running, Avonworth 23, Aliquippa 7. Bell Vernon evens the record at 1-1. They win at Central Valley 25-22. Warriors now 0-3, 2 of those losses at home at Sarge Elbert, but they're playing some rock and sock'em competition. Should help them when they get into 3A conference play. West Allegheny 65, McGuffey 7. That evens the Indians record at 1-1. Hopewell 49, Ambridge 2. Southmoreland defeats Laurel Highlands by a score of 54-7. That was a battle of undefeated teams. The Scotties, all that controversy in the offseason with them losing their quarterback, they're now 3-0. 54-7, Southmoreland over Laurel Highlands. Whew. I get tired just reading the score. North Catholic 65, Blackhawk 49. How would you like to have called that game? 114 points between the Trojans and the Cougars this evening. Newcastle shuts out Highlands 32-0. Canes now 2-1. Derry 2-1. They win at Deer Lakes 24-21. Imani Christian now 3-0. Saints win at Gypsy Glen 41-3. Imani Christian over Beaver. Freeport wins a battle of the undefeated. They return the opening kickoff and they cruise to a 42-7 win at Quaker Valley. Burrell 28, Mount Pleasant 21, first win of the year for the Bucks. Greensburg-Salem 26, Valley 10. Golden Lions now 2-1. Elizabeth Forward 3-0. The Warriors roll at home over East Allegheny 53-13. South Allegheny 3-0. They win big in Carnegie over Carleton 53-0. Seton LaSalle 39, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 7, 2 straight wins for the Rebels, and Washington 42-7 over Union. The little Prexies bouncing back after losing to Steel Valley last week. Speaking of the Ironmen, they lose at home to Bishop Canavan 21-6. Jeanette 31, Ligonier Valley nothing. Greensburg Central Catholic 35, Apollo Ridge 16. Bentworth now 2-1. The Bearcats win big at Charleroi 45-0. Brentwood 41, Stowe Rocks nothing. Neshannock 26, Elwood City 20. Shenango wins their first, stunning Mohawk in Bessemer 24-0. Laurel shuts out Riverside 43-0. Sparty now 3-0 up in Lawrence County. Western Beaver 41, Rochester 6, tough going in the post-Gene Matzuk era as the Rams fall to 0-3. The Golden Beavers now 3-0. Jefferson Morgan 3-0. They win at Burgettstown this evening 26-10. Fort Cherry 3-0. Rangers all over West Green 55-8. Fraser 31, Carmichael's 14. That halts and breaks the longest current win streak in the WPIAL. It had been 4 in a row by Carmichael's. We'll give you the latest team to take over that mantle in a moment. But Carmichael's loses at Fraser 31-14. Avella 3-0. The Eagles win at Springdale 35-6. Leechburg 26, Sarah Catholic nothing. And Chartiers Houston a winner at Mapletown 35-28. Independent circuit, University Prep beats Carrick 56-12. Uniontown over Brownsville 34-27. The Red Raiders are now 2-1. Butler 3-0. Golden Tornado win at home over Meadville from District 10, 48-34. And a couple of City League games getting the District 8 schedule going. Yesterday, Westinghouse 50, Brashear 6. This evening, Alderdice 45 and Perry 6. Just want to mention, too, talked about it before the game, worth mentioning again, I think. We learned midweek that the game between Shadyside Academy and Clairton was going to be postponed. It initially came out. Shadyside Academy felt they didn't have enough healthy bodies. A lot of injuries in winning their first 2 weeks. Felt it was dangerous to try to send a team and compete against one of the best teams in Class A. And so they were willing to take the forfeit loss. WPIAL came out and said, don't declare anything as far as forfeits are concerned, because if you forfeit, in the bylaws, I guess, one of the rules is you will not receive a schedule from the district in the next 2-year cycle, which is coming up this season for the next 2 years. So the WPL said, we're just calling it postponed now, and we encourage both schools to try to make it up. It's non-conference. When are you going to possibly make that game up? You're not. I'd be stunned if they try to play that game and avoid the forfeit loss. It should go in the books. I mean, Shadyside Academy was willing to take the forfeit. I'm not sure why you can't, but for now, Clairton remains 1-1. Shadyside Academy is 2-0, and I feel bad for Clairton. This was one of the better games. We were going to broadcast it on the network. It was going to be one of our feature games. In a school district in which every dollar matters, taking that away is tough. It is. They probably would have got a real nice gate on a real nice night for a pretty good ball game between Shadyside Academy and Clairton, but it doesn't happen. The game postponed, and we'll see. We'll see what happens down the road, what the WPIAL is going to have to decide. I mentioned Central Catholic Woodland Hills tomorrow. Also tomorrow, home opener for the Summit Academy in Herman, PA, as Summit Academy hosts Freedom. All right, we will. We still have a game recap that will be coming probably during the roundtable, but we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll pass along any further final scores, a couple scores that we do not have as finals yet, and we'll begin an early edition of the roundtable with Sir Robert Orquist. That's coming up when the Week 2 edition of the WPIAL Scoreboard Show continues on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
Hi, I'm Adam Goodnack, and I'm a student in Seton Hill University's Wookich School of Nursing. I did my clinical rounds throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and it strengthened my belief in the path that I chose. I could really feel that I was making an impact. The faculty in my coursework at Seton Hill has prepared me to dive right into my field. I've received personalized support and expert guidance. I'm moving forward as a nurse of tomorrow at Seton Hill University.
This is Micah. He tweaked his shoulder. So did Max. And Miles did too. And while they could all use some quality PT, at AHN Sports Medicine, we know they each need a little something different to make a comeback. Our doctors and specialists pinpoint that difference and make a personalized rehab plan to protect Miles' backswing and Max's throwing arm and Micah's serve. Because at AHN Sports Medicine, we see you.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
This is Miles. He needs PT. Jess needs training. And Max needs both. And while they're all athletic, at AHN Sports Medicine, we know they each need a little something different to hit their goals. Our doctors and specialists pinpoint that difference and make a personalized plan to improve Miles' backswing and Max's throwing arm and Jess's form. Because at AHN Sports Medicine, we see you.
The Rebel Yell podcast with Don Rebel happens 4 times a week. Visit with some of the WPIAL's best players in the Player of the Week podcast. Some of the district's top coaches are featured in the Team of the Week podcast. A weekly preview podcast looks at some of the best matchups in the WPIAL. And finally, a Friday night recap podcast with scores and statistical highlights. Find the Rebel Yell podcast on hssn.triblive.com.
And now on Spotify.
Do you need custom printed materials for your school or organization? Hosting a fundraiser or special event? PrintSource can help. Visit printpittsburgh.com for a free quote on yard signs or banners, flyers and stickers, invitations, program books and tickets, even yearbooks. We are your single source solution for printed materials, signage, and so much more. Visit us online at printpittsburgh.com. PrintSource. Design, print, deliver.
Hi, I'm Adam Goodnack, and I'm a student in Seton Hill University's Wookich School of Nursing. I did my clinical rounds throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and it strengthened my belief in the path that I chose. I could really feel that I was making an impact. The faculty in my coursework at Seton Hill has prepared me to dive right into my field. I've received personalized support and expert guidance. I'm moving forward as a nurse of tomorrow at Seton Hill University.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
All right. Our producer, Chris Lackner, working diligently to try to get some of these other finals. One of them in an independent matchup in Fayette County. Albert Gallatin defeats Connellsville by a score of 28-14. The Colonials are 3-0. So a couple of teams, a couple programs. We've seen these over the last 2 cycles, 2 years, 4 years, where teams struggling big time in the WPIAL have decided to play independent schedules to just try to get the program back, get a good feel for what's going on. You heard Kevin Zomansky, if you've been with us, talking about Baldwin and how the numbers are low and it's not a great situation. You just want to have the kids feel good about the program again before you jump back in. Now, you got to make sure, because you can't be, in and out, at least my opinion. But Albert Gallatin has had success as an independent. They're now 3-0 this year, win by 2 touchdowns over Connellsville. Butler, another team that is considering coming back, they're now 3-0 after beating Meadville by a couple touchdowns. So let's bring Bob Orquist in. We begin our roundtable a little earlier than usual. And some of the scores that we are missing, we're going to go over the games that we do have. Some of the scores that we are missing, we will pass along as they come in. And a lot of them I've noticed.
I was searching for you, Don.
I appreciate it.
I can only tell you South Park was up 13 with about half of the fourth quarter left. They had a lightning delay against Keystone Oaks.
Right. And I was going to say, a lot of these games that we are missing, games in Monessen, games in Waynesburg, games at Keystone Oaks, Ringgold, Char Valley, all south of the city. Bethel Park's another one. So they are either trying to get the game finished or maybe have pulled the plug, but it hasn't been officially announced. But once we get word on any of those games, we will pass them along to you. But just get your thoughts on what I was just talking about, we've seen probably, in my opinion, too many. I understand the gist of leaving the WPIL and playing an independent schedule just to try to, again, get a good feel, get some positive momentum. I think all of these programs have said that once they get the program back in a good place, that they'd like to return to the WPIL. I don't think anybody has said, we're done, we're gone.
Butler wanted to. Just couldn't make it work logistically.
Yeah. Yes. So we'll see. We're coming up on another 2-year cycle, and these teams have got to make their decision probably sometime here in the next couple of months before the new year begins, and then in the new year is when the WPL releases everything. But it is good to see these schools playing an independent schedule, at least having success and getting closer and closer.
I can understand that, right? You said it. We were talking about Baldwin when you're talking about Kevin and getting some numbers, right? You have to get success to get that and get excitement and get players in and get numbers up. And then that might not help you in 1 year, but it's got to be a cycle of 2 or 3 years. So I think it's a good thing. I would always welcome them back. I would think the WPL, for the most part, would think the same way. But you got to get footing, right? And getting slobber knocked in 6A is not how you get footing sometimes.
No, that
or
is
any
correct.
other classification for that matter, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You may be in the independent circles playing games of similar teams of similar talent elsewhere, but when you're coming back to the league, District 7, you're placed in a higher classification, playing higher. So you need numbers and you need a positive vibe, and hopefully that all goes hand in hand. Let's give you some scores now. Well, they're rolling in. Southside defeats Beaver Falls 26-6. Rams bounce back after losing last week to Western Beaver. South Park over Keystone Oaks 27-14. Cornell defeats Riverview. Sorry about that, Robert. 35-21. Chartiers Valley, first loss of the year, by the way, in that battle of the Raiders for Riverview. Char Valley beats Indiana 42-6. Ringgold blanks Yawk 40-0, first loss for the Cougars. And Cannon McMillan wins their first of the year, 37-28 over South Fayette. So let's begin. I'll run down a bunch of scores, and you throw your 2 cents in. These are games that involved 6A teams, all playing teams from Class 5A. And let's give some love to 6A. Last year, we were talking at this time how they were taking on the chin against 5A teams. They're having a little more success this year. North Allegheny, 35-0 over Penn Hills. Indians really struggling. Hempfield, 43. Kiskiri 10. The Spartans, 3-0. Norwin, 35-0 over Latrobe. The Knights are 2-1. Canamac, their first win, 37-28 over South Fayette. Pine Richland, 49. Seneca Valley, 20. And Peters Township, 35-0 over Mount Lebanon. So a 4-2 night for 6A.
So I think the story coming out of North Allegheny, and you just hinted at that, right? Big things expected for Penn Hills. Not that can happen. And again, it's a loss against a 6A team, but really not a good start at all for Penn Hills. Conversely, Hempfield is a team that has had struggles in the past, and struggles especially when they in a conference play in 6A. But a great start for TJ Dietrich, overcoming some tragedy there and getting the start. And Norwin is potentially a missed call. Depends on what side of the ball you're on, against Penn Trafford of being 3-0. So they're off to a great start as well.
Yeah, it's a good call. Penn Trafford beats Moon. Those two teams had come into the game 2-0. Warriors go west and win 25-24. So this PT team now 3-0, and they've had some close victories.
On a 95-yard drive to win that game for Penn Trafford.
49-6 Upper St. Clair over Franklin Regional. Plum 23, Gateway 14, and Hampton beat Shaler 25-24. Titans 0-3. They've lost all three at home, and I think all three have been one-score games.
Hampton kicked a 46-yard field goal to win that game at the end of that one. So Shaler not that far off. Upper St. Clair, really good stuff. We were talking, Michael Garr and I, during the broadcast of watching the Panthers and Ethan Hellman operate, and you had corrected me that Joey Felitsky could be the top passer. We were comparing both, how Felitsky and North Catholic's offense looked very smooth against Seton LaSalle in week 0. Same thing tonight. I mean, granted, Franklin Regional was beat up, and not a lot of the throws that Hellman had to make were difficult, but really, really good stuff from Ethan Hellman, the 4-year starter. 300 yards, that puts him, I think, at 3,700 plus for his career and 5 touchdowns. He has not thrown an interception last year or 3 games this year. So ball security also important.
Chris Harlan and I were talking during the week about Ethan Hellman and also Carson Bellinger of Avonworth, 2 quarterbacks who have a lot of experience, but they haven't been asked to throw much until this year, because both teams over the last couple of years, Panthers and Antelopes, have leaned heavily on the run. But now these guys are being asked to chuck it a little more often, and they're doing a great job.
Well, Carson has Luke Neal. It's fantastic. Ethan Hellman, Don, 2 ends, by the way, in Hellman.
That's right.
He has 11. They had 11 receivers who have caught passes, so they spread it around. But he's got Nico Durazio. Touchback, first play from scrimmage. He gets behind the secondary for an 80-yard touchdown. So they have star receivers, but they also spread it around. Bellinger's a great story because, he's not asked to be the guy. That's a well-coached team. I've got to see them in back-to-back weeks. They put up a big performance against West Mifflin. Maybe a better performance tonight, as you've talked about, as we will talk about shortly.
Yeah, indeed. And I like Chris Harlan's little piece about Hellman with the 2 ends.
That's where I stole the 2 ends from, by the way.
And he made the comparison of Coach Ackerman at Baldwin, who always has his name misspelled, and Wally Rotman at North Catholic. Same thing.
That's why Chris is the best.
That's right. Put those ends in there. Double ends at the end. All right. Mars edges North Hills, 13-10. Eric Kasparovich in his return to Martorelli. Fox Chapel now 2-1. It's been a while since we've said that. 20-18 they win at Knock. West Mifflin 41-0 over Baldwin. Chartiers Valley 42-6 over Indiana. Montour 35, Trinity 27. And one of the games of the night, Thomas Jefferson 16, McKeesport 7. The Jaguars scoring 13 of their 16 points in the final minute of the game. But I think the big story is another injury, or maybe the same injury, to Keeman Spell.
He aggravated the ankle injury, and read that he may get fitted for a boot. So it may be weeks. That's a best case scenario, right? I also read that he may not be able to take his visit to Penn State because of this injury. And that's a big time loss for them. I read that TJ, people have read up about the tragic story of Brad Dawson this week.
Yes.
And they kind of dedicated that performance at the end to Brad Dawson. So good on them. That's been a good rivalry between those two teams over the years. But Keeman Smells, he's certainly a difference maker. And that could be a difference for McKeesport because, they're a team that had expectations. They do have expectations still.
Right. And fortunately for them, they're one of the teams in a smaller conference that's still a couple weeks away from conference play. And if
except for St. Clair, the A5, the A6, with just 5 conference games, they still have 2 more weeks of conference play. So not that Upper St. Clair needs any tweaking so far.
Yeah. So we pray for the best for one of the best juniors in the state.
Sure.
Keeman Spell. Avonworth game we just talked about a moment ago, 23-7. They win at Aliquippa. West Allegheny now 1-1 after thrashing McGuffey 65-7. Bell Vernon 1-1 after winning at Central Valley 25-22. Warriors demon schedule, but they are now 0-3. Hopewell 3-0, 49-2. They win at Ambridge. Probably another big game for Boo Boo, James Armstrong. Southmoreland 3-0, 54-7. They win over Laurel Highlands. Mustangs' first loss. And then the wild one, North Catholic 65, Blackhawk 49, where defense was optional, Robert.
Defense definitely optional on that one. Oh, the passing attack is great. Politsky, Riker Kennedy. There's some other receivers in that too. I saw Avonworth last week, and they're well coached. That with Duke Johncore. They might have a wow factor, but Carson Bellinger, like Ethan Hellman, they're 4-year starters.
Yep.
So they've seen a lot. They've done a lot. All this, by the way, all the seniors for Avonworth, they've not been to Acrisure Stadium in their careers, even though they ran up against the Bell Vernon juggernauts before winning last year. So that's impressive because Aliquippa is always going to be Aliquippa. Great stuff for Southmoreland as well. I think Southmoreland, and we'll talk a little bit about Seton LaSalle here as we advance. Once you get the pads on right and you're starting to play meaningful football, you can forget about the tumult of the offseason, and both of those teams directly related to the tumult with each other.
That's very, very well said, sir. Very well said. The next page, I flip over. Newcastle 32, Highlands nothing. Ringgold 40-0. They hand York their first loss. Ringgold might be a team to sort of keep an eye on. They're now 2-1. Imani Christian, we know they're a team to watch. 41-3. They win at Beaver. And yes, this is not the same Bobcats team that we've seen over the last couple of years, but they're still pretty good, especially at Gypsy Glen. But they lose big to the Saints tonight. And Derry, a nice win at Deer Lakes, 24-21.
So, yeah, I agree with you, Ringo. I've been reading some stuff and some of their athletes. I probably should have jotted that down, or could have jotted it down and not found it, like the Penn Trafford info that you had jotted down. That happens a lot, so I got your back there. But, yeah, they have had success really when I go back to, like, the late 2009, 2008. They kept running up against TJ, right?
Right.
When they had success in semifinal runs. So, I like stories.
Didn't they have the law? Was it the Laws? I know there was Laws in Rochester. Didn't they have a Law that played at Ringgold?
I cannot confirm nor deny that.
You're the elephant in the
room. You might be right though. You're ringing a bell. We're bringing that up. I'd have to research that.
Okay. All right. Again, your memory is much, much sharper than mine. Kudos to you for that. Let's take a pause, a timeout, if you will. We'll continue to run down these scores. We do have one more recap, and I told you it was coming. Mitch Montani will join us in a very crowded room right now. A little weather delay, slowing things down, grinding it to a halt, actually, between South Fayette and Cannon McMillan. A pretty good game, though, and the Big Macs are celebrating their first victory, Mitch.
Absolutely, Don. It was a pretty eventful game, and it was pretty much all Cannon Mac in the second half, but it took us a long way to get there. It was very back and forth. It started with a Rise Mentz 34-yard field goal. Then Cannon Mac went out to a 10-0 lead with Ty Jansma finding Roman Cimaroli from 48 yards away to give the Big Macs a 10-0 lead. South Fayette responded with a couple of touchdowns. Daniel Specca hauled one in from Drew Welhorski, the South Fayette quarterback. Welhorski would then run in a touchdown to give the Lions a 14-10 lead. And then Cannon Mac responded before the first half ended. A 3-yard touchdown pass from Jansma to Ethan Campoli. It was 17-14 in favor of Cannon Mac at halftime. We got into the third quarter. South Fayette and Cannon Mac exchanged punts, and then that's when the skies opened up and the lightning started to strike here in the Cannonsburg area. We entered a lightning delay of just under an hour, right around 50 minutes, with a 17-14 lead for the Big Macs. And then Cannon Mac came out storming in the post-lightning delay atmosphere. Mason Calgaro scored from 5 yards out to give the Big Macs a 10-point lead again. Anthony Bostian would respond for South Fayette. He caught a 7-yard touchdown pass from Welhorski. That made it 24-21. Calgaro scored again for Cannon Mac to give them a 10-point lead back, and then they added on with a touchdown pass from Jansma to Campoli. It was a 16-point lead at that point with the missed extra point, and then Welhorski threw one more touchdown to Specca to end the night. So the final score in this one was Cannon Mac 37 and South Fayette 28. So the Big Macs, Don, get a win against a team that they only put up 10 points against last year and lost to Allegheny 6 Conference's South Fayette. A big win for the Big Macs under interim head coach Brian DeLallo in his first season, and he's able to get a victory here tonight and get Cannon Mac its first win of the year.
Are you under a bridge or are you in the press box there?
I am in my car.
Oh, okay.
In my 2020 Kia Soul, Don.
Okay. Well done, my friend. Good job working well into the night as Cannon McMillan gets their first win. They open up 6A play next week, correct?
They actually have one more non-conference.
Okay.
They faced Armstrong.
That's right. That's right. They're the only one, I think. The other 6 teams do open up 6A play next week, and then they will in 2 weeks against Mount Lebanon. Mitch, thank you, sir.
Absolutely, Don. Have a good night.
All right, you too. The great Mitch Montani. We say so long to him. We welcome back Bobby O. We'll pick up where we left off.
Hey, by the way,
week 2.
That's Anthony Specca's younger brother playing for South Fayette, the former Central Catholic linebacker now at Penn State.
Yes, correct.
So they're going to get ready because they're in the A6. That's the best conference in the WPIAL.
No doubt. Was last year, and it appears it will be again this year.
Before you go to the scores, Don, shout out to you. Quad Law was the quarterback at Ringgold during those successful years.
All right.
You're praising my memory, and you got it right, my friend.
I kept thinking Essex, and I know he was Rochester.
He was Rochester back in the day. Quad Law was the quarterback at Ringgold.
All right. So there's still a molecule or two left up there that's working.
We're going to keep you around.
Hey, thanks. Freeport 42-7 over Quaker Valley. Both those teams had been 2-0. Jackets now 3-0. Borough wins their first 28-21 over Mount Pleasant. Greensburg-Salem 26, Valley 10. And Elizabeth Forward, they just keep doing what they do, winning 53-13 big over East Allegheny.
They remind me a little bit of Avonworth, well coached.
Yeah, they do. Good call.
Flashy, successful. I believe it's Ryan Messina, maybe, if I got
yes, Ryan Messina.
His brother, I think, was wanted to play defensive end in the MAC conference, maybe Bowling Green. But they just continue, right? They've been a team on the cusp, really.
Yep.
So maybe it's the breakthrough for the Warriors.
And his uncle was a pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles. I just made that up. I don't have
Mike Messina. Moose Messina. If you're Ryan Messina, run with that story.
That's right. 2A non-conference. South Allegheny 53, Carlinton nothing. South Park defending champs 3-0, 27-14. They win at Keystone Oaks. Seton LaSalle 39-7 over Our Lady of the Sacred Heart. And Washington bounces back 42-7. They knock off Union.
So I saw St. LaSalle talked about, right, they had the tumultuous offseason too. Maybe even more so than Southmoreland because they had other transfers. Little John goes to Penn Hills. Taylor goes to Pine Richland. Kid transfers to Central Catholic. I think they just needed to get that out of their system. They ran up against a very good North Catholic offense in week 0. I was there to see it. And I think they figured it out. Right? They have enough playmakers. They've got 2 really good tight end defensive ends, a young quarterback, but just need some time maybe to figure it out. And credit to the Rebels for doing that. Because they had the big victory last week against a good Canterbury, proved how good they were with a win tonight over Steel Valley.
Good segue. Bishop Canterbury 21, Steel Valley 6. Jeanette 31-0 over Ligonier Valley. Waynesburg Central beats California 27-20, first loss for the Trojans. 35-16 Greensburg Central Catholic over Apollo Ridge, and 45-0 Bentworth defeats Charleroi.
So I got nothing really for you there, except for just headed into the Bishop Canterbury because that's a nice rebound for them too. They've had some ups and downs. Rod Steele goes home, as you guys talked about earlier, but they get the quarterback eligible to play, and that's a big pickup for them and doing good things. So, again, you've got to figure it out. Fans want to win every game. That's why they're fans, right? You need to figure it out in these non-conference games. And so that's what they're there
for,
what you do, right? Don't look at that record. Central Valley figured it out last year outside of injuries and everything. They're 0-3, right? They figured it out by the end of the year.
We have seen several teams, I'm not going to go overboard and say most, but a lot of teams who start 3-0 end up missing the playoffs, and teams who have started 0-3 end up winning their conference. So good call by you to just everybody calm down. Probably in that Bentworth 45-0 win over Charleroi, Ben Hayes, glad to see him getting some ink this past week. He's a special running back for the Bentworth Bearcats, and I'm sure we'll be talking about him in our podcast, recapping tonight's action. Probably another big game for him as Bentworth tallies 45. Brentwood tallies 41. They win their first of the year, winning in McKees Rocks over Stowe Rocks 41-0. Good one tonight at Lincoln High School, where Elwood City falls to Neshannock 26-20. Shenango stuns Mohawk 24-0 for the Wildcats' first win of the season. And Southside bounces back. They lost under the lights at Western Beaver last week. They win tonight in Hookstown 26-6 over a continuing struggling Beaver Falls program.
So the lights were brighter last week at Western Beaver than they were in Hookstown. Is that what we're saying? A
little too bright in industry.
Here's another thing about coaching, right? I heard you and James talking about putting the freshman in at quarterback for Shenango, and it's knowing when to pull the trigger, right, and make moves. And again, it's week 2 officially. But they had 143 yards of offense, and the freshman gets 260, 270 of total offense on his own. And it's knowing when. And granted, Mohawk has a big injury, but it's just knowing when to pull that trigger. And right before you get into conference play, you want to make sure, hey, this is the time to do it. That apparently, we'll see how that works out for the Wildcats, but they pushed the right button certainly tonight.
All right, continuing on, Don Rebel Bob Orquist, it's the roundtable recapping week 2 of the WPIAL football season for some teams' final tune-up before conference play begins next week. Laurel is a team to watch in Class A in that Big 7 conference. They win at Riverside 43-0. Spartans now 3-0. Western Beaver, mentioned them. They're 3-0. They win at Rochester 41-6. Fort Cherry 55-8 over West Green. Two-time defending champion Rangers now 3-0. Jefferson Morgan 3-0. They go to Burgettstown, hand the Blue Devils their first loss 26-10. And Carmichael's falls to Fraser 31-14.
It's not a losing streak for Fraser. I know they have had a great success.
They split. They won their week 0 game.
So that was that. I think they were winless last year. So good for them. Good for Carmichael as well. I agree with you certainly on Laurel as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out up in the Big 7.
Ovella 3-0. We haven't said that too often, Bobby.
Yeah, they had
covering high school.
They were 2-0, and they had 2 wins in a season for a long stretch, I think. So 3-0 is better than 2-0. Good job, Avella Eagles.
35-6, they win at Springdale. Chartiers Houston, 35-28 win at Mapletown. Cornell 35, Riverview 21, and Leechburg wins their second straight 26-0 over Sarah Catholic.
Any word of Tim Andracy, Mr. Touchdown up there in Leechburg?
Yep.
That's a good. He steps into a big role because they had some losses, and I saw Cornell and they knocked off Leechburg in last year's playoffs. So Cornell didn't. They've had a couple seniors who graduated, but they've got some talent. So I'm no surprise how well they're playing. But Tim Andracy was kind of a role player, and he stepped well into being the guy for the Blue Devils.
And City League and Independent Finals, Alderdice 45-6 over Perry. Last night at Couple Stadium, Westinghouse 50, Brashear 6. Butler 48-34 over Meadville. Albert Gallatin 28-14 over Connellsville. Uniontown 34, Bronzeville 27. And University Prep beats Carrick 56-12.
Already gave you my thoughts on the Independent.
I love the fact that when you got nothing,
I want to welcome them. I honestly just want to welcome them back if they decide to come back to District 7.
2 finals. Bethel Park bounces back. They lost their first last week. They win big at home over Armstrong, 56-28. And Monessen now 3-0. The Greyhounds at home over Beth Center, 20-3. Going streaking. Let's get the rough part out of the way first. Baldwin has now lost 22 in a row. Springdale has dropped 18 in a row. Valley has lost 18 in a row. Beaver Falls 14 straight, and both McGuffey and Stowe Rocks have lost 13 in a row. We have all these 3-0 teams now, but there's one team that is now won 4 straight games going back to last year, that now owns the current longest win streak in the WPIAL, with Carmichael's losing. 4 straight wins. You care to hazard a guess or no?
So I'm trying to think who would have won.
I'll give you a hint. Big school. So remember now, you're thinking, who did not make the playoffs last year?
Hempfield
Spartans, very good. They won their last game last year, and have won their first 3 this year. They now have the current longest win streak in the WPIAL at 4 in a row.
More.
The Clairton Bears can sleep well.
Yeah, Clairton. I was just going to say that. You still might be safe there, Clairton.
I think at 66 in a row, that record is kind of safe. I'm not sure while we're doing this, Robert, that we'll see that. Maybe eventually someday it will be broken. I don't know that we'll see it.
I would agree with you. Just some fantastic stuff during that streak and that run for the Clarendon Bears. I have a question for you before we
go ahead.
It's football.
Well, let me give you the final. We got the last final. Let me give it to you, and then you got the question.
Bring it in.
New Brighton is also 3-0 now. The Lions win at Northgate 38-0. Ask your question.
All the finals. Are you having a hold in? You got the 97 jersey on there. Do I have to call our friend Randy Gore? Do we need that check to entice you to stay on board?
That big check might finally get me to not boycott my podcast coming up after this show's over. This is sad, Robert. Good observation by you with the 97
jersey.
This is not a Cam Hayward jersey. This is an old Kendrell Bell shirt.
Really?
So just want to clarify that.
Okay, so then, Randy, your check is safe.
I might be hurt, but I won't be holding out.
Very good. Ken Bell had some good years, a couple at least anyway.
Well, he had one good year.
Yeah.
Then he started.
I think it was his
hurt.
rookie year, maybe, right?
Rookie year. He's a defensive rookie of the year, I believe.
That would mean he had a good year.
So we got about 2 minutes left, Robert. Week 3 in the book, or week 2 in the books, 3 weeks in the books. We're now, I think, being able to tell as the quote unquote experts, which are the teams that look like they're the real deal, which will probably be somewhere in the middle of the pack, and which teams it might be a struggle for. I think you get a pretty good feel now, don't you?
I would agree. Still teams, we talked well about Avonworth, right? They still got the gauntlet in 4A because they've got TJ.
Right.
So that's another game that, it's a test. Avonworth loses to TJ, right? Brush that off because they're still probably the team to beat in 3A. And I didn't mention it too because I saw Armand Hill. That's a testament again to how good Avonworth is because they shut him down and not that, lesser team. But West Mifflin is young, and Hill's a junior, West Virginia recruit. He took his frustrations out on Baldwood tonight. So, but Avonworth is a team, EF to me, a team that we're looking out for. And then you have your other standbys too. Big win for Belle Vernon, but TJ is TJ. Big game tomorrow at the Hall of Fame, Tom Benson Stadium. But how can you not see possibly a Central Catholic NA bashing heads in 6A, right? So it seems like Norwin and Hempfield and Seneca Valley, Cannon McMillan, right? You battle it out at the bottom for spots 3 and 4. But how can you not see those two powerhouses?
Don't sleep on Mount Lebanon. They started, 0-4, 0-5 last year, and they made the playoffs. 6A, after those top two, is, especially now that Hempfield and Norwin have improved themselves, it's a nice battle for 3rd and 4th, but that's exactly what it is in that classification, a battle for 3rd and 4th. Robert, great job as always. We thank you. It's a rare chance that we get the chance to check because you're Mr. Busy. You're doing a lot of writing for the website as well. A rare night off for you from that standpoint. So we were thrilled to get you on the roundtable.
You and I talking football on a Friday night. This seems right.
Just seems right. My pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
Always my pleasure, Don.
The great Bob Orquist. We thank him. We thank our producer, Chris Lackner. It's preseason for him as well. Let's just always keep that in mind. I'm Don Rebel. We thank you for joining us. Lots still coming up. We got our recap podcast. Check it out over the weekend on our website. We got our Player of the Week podcast coming out late Sunday, our Team of the Week podcast late Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we start previewing.
# earned.
That's right.
That's a beautiful thing in your article.
Earned indeed. For Bobby, for Chris, I'm Don Rebel. Thank you for joining us. The WPIAL Scoreboard Show, Week 2 edition here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.